It was just another Tuesday afternoon at school, or so I thought. Little did I know that my world was about to be turned upside down by a combination of technology, teenage hormones, and sheer bad luck. As I sat in the cramped bathroom stall, I pulled out my phone, eager to continue the flirty text conversation I'd been having with my crush, Sydney. We'd been dancing around each other for weeks, our messages becoming increasingly playful and suggestive. I felt a rush of excitement every time my phone buzzed with a new message from her. With trembling fingers, I typed out what I hoped was a clever and charming response to her last text. I read it over several times, tweaking words here and there to strike just the right tone. After what felt like an eternity, I finally hit send, my heart racing with anticipation. As I waited for her reply, I scrolled back through our conversation, relishing in the witty banter and subtle flirtations. I was so engrossed in our digital exchange that I barely registered the sounds of the bustling bathroom around me. The occasional flush of a nearby toilet or the squeak of the bathroom door opening and closing faded into the background as I focused intently on my phone screen. Lost in my own little world, I didn't notice when my finger accidentally brushed against the call button next to Sydney's name. In my pocket, the phone silently connected, initiating a call that would soon turn my world upside down. Blissfully unaware of what I had just done, I continued to reread our messages, a goofy grin plastered across my face. I imagined Sydney's reaction to my latest text, picturing her smile as she read it. Would she blush? Would she laugh? The possibilities sent a thrill through me. After a few more minutes of daydreaming and rereading, I realized I should probably wrap things up and head back to class. I quickly finished my business, flushed the toilet, and stood up to adjust my clothes. As I reached for the stall door, a faint sound caught my attention. My blood ran cold as I recognized Sydney's voice, seemingly emanating from my pocket. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and saw, to my horror, that I was in the middle of an active call with her. The call timer showed that we had been connected for over 5 minutes. Panic set in as the realization of what had happened hit me like a ton of bricks. I had accidentally called Sydney while sitting in the bathroom stall, completely oblivious to the fact that she could hear everything that was going on. My mind raced, trying to recall if I had said anything out loud, if I had made any embarrassing noises, or if the sound of the toilet flushing had been picked up by the phone's microphone. In a moment of sheer panic, I did the only thing I could think of. I ended the call. My finger jabbed at the red button on the screen, desperate to sever the connection and put an end to this nightmare. As soon as the call disconnected, I leaned against the stall door, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure everyone in the bathroom could hear it. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, trying to process what had just happened. How much had Sydney heard? Did she realize where I was? What must she be thinking right now? The questions swirled in my mind, each one more mortifying than the last. Eventually, I managed to pull myself together enough to leave the stall. As I washed my hands, I caught sight of my reflection in the mirror. My face was pale, and my eyes were wide with residual panic. I splashed some cold water on my cheeks, trying to regain some composure before facing the outside world. As I left the bathroom and made my way back to class, my mind was in overdrive. Should I text Sydney and explain what happened? Should I pretend it never occurred and hope she wouldn't bring it up? The thought of facing her after this incident filled me with dread. For the rest of the day, I was a nervous wreck. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped, afraid it would be Sydney confronting me about the call. But no message came. In fact, our usual stream of texts had come to an abrupt halt. The silence was almost worse than any awkward conversation we might have had. When I finally saw Sydney in person the next day, I felt my face flush with embarrassment. I tried to act normal, giving her a weak smile and a small wave as we passed each other in the hallway. To my surprise and relief, she smiled back, showing no sign that anything was amiss. As the days went by and Sydney never mentioned the incident, I began to wonder if perhaps I had overreacted. Maybe she hadn't heard anything embarrassing after all. Or maybe she was just kind enough to pretend it never happened. Whatever the reason, I was grateful for her discretion. However, the experience had left its mark on me. Every time I saw Sydney, I couldn't help but cringe inwardly, wondering what she might have overheard. Our text conversations, once so easy and flirtatious, now felt stilted and awkward, at least on my end. I second-guessed every message, paranoid about making another mistake. The incident also made me hyper-aware of my phone and its potential to betray me. I became obsessive about checking that my screen was locked before putting my phone in my pocket. I turned off the swipe to call feature and added an extra passcode to my phone app. I even considered getting one of those old-fashioned flip phones, just to eliminate the risk of pocket dialing altogether. As time passed, the acute embarrassment of that day began to fade, replaced by a valuable lesson in the importance of being mindful of technology. I realized how easy it is for our devices to expose our private moments, and how crucial it is to be aware of our digital footprint at all times. The experience also taught me something about human nature and the power of empathy. Sydney's decision not to confront me or make a big deal out of the incident showed a level of maturity and kindness that I deeply appreciated. It made me reflect on how I would have reacted if the situations were reversed, and I promised myself to always try to extend the same courtesy to others in potentially embarrassing situations. Months later, when Sydney and I had become closer friends, I finally worked up the courage to bring up the incident. To my surprise, she burst out laughing. As it turned out, Sydney had indeed heard me in the bathroom, but she had quickly realized it was an accidental call and had tried to alert me by saying hello a few times. When I didn't respond, she had simply hung up and decided to spare me the embarrassment of acknowledging it. Her understanding and discretion touched me deeply, and it was a turning point in our relationship. From that moment on, we were able to laugh about the incident together, and it became a funny anecdote in the story of our friendship. Looking back now, I can appreciate the humor in the situation. What seemed like a catastrophic, life-ruining event at the time has become a funny story to share with friends, with Sydney's permission, of course. It's a reminder that even our most embarrassing moments can lead to growth, learning, and sometimes even stronger connections with others. The experience changed me in subtle but significant ways. I became more careful with my phone, yes, but I also became more empathetic towards others in awkward situations. I learned the value of discretion and the importance of not jumping to conclusions.